Hello, hello, hello. It's me, 09. Mr. Fox was waiting for you to join his newly created Fox School of Witchers. We are unique among our peers, where others don't see it as in style or in tradition. We decided to upgrade Witcher capability. Witcher never mind. We gave our Witchers some guns. I won't pretend I can spell complicated words. We just did this. We gave Witchers guns. Guns with silver bullets. Because why should you not give Witcher silver bullets? Now, let's see why our Witcher school was totally removed from canon. And yeah, I'm salty about this as much as Mr. Fox is. You see, Mr. Fox is my employer. So, as employee, I need to make him happy. And if I don't, you know... without further ado, this is the video. Witcher schools are being removed from canon, but why? From Neon Knights. The entire video link will be in the description as always. So subscribe to so if you like his video, subscribe to the channel and leave the like. Also, comment on my video if you want more or see more stuff with his. I will try to add something to it as always. So, let's start.
So I should say right off the bat that this is an emergency upload. For the past month or so, I've been working on a huge Gaunter-O-Dim lore video, but I just had to stop what I was doing to talk about, well, exactly what you clicked for. The title of this video is not an exaggeration. Witcher schools are apparently no more, and I'm gonna be honest, I think this whole situation, which the entire Witcher community has been arguing about for the past couple of weeks at this point, I just think this is all pretty funny, even though, well, we'll get there. So to catch you up to speed, the author of the Witcher books, Andrei Sapkowski, just recently answered some fan questions on Reddit, including a couple of questions about the games, which, as you probably know, he has very little time for. People like to say that he hates the Witcher games, that he thinks they're absolutely terrible, but that's never been true. What is true, though, is that he's a 77-year-old man who thinks video games are kinda dumb, whether they're
Well, it's not fully the case. The thing is with Mr. Sapkowski is that he, the story about games is very funny because before games there was a Witcher TV show, which is much better than Netflix one, by the way, just because it's more faithful to the books. And the thing is, the show didn't really sell well at the time. It was kind of failure, which, when you see the dragon, is kind of understandable. It cost us much, and he didn't get much money from it. So when he got proposition about game, he, instead of wanting to get percentage cut from this game sales, he just asked for flat payment about it. And then the game got popular, so, and it got popular that it got much money, but he couldn't get that money because he asked for flat amount of price, not percentage price. So he kinda scammed himself by not having much faith in the project. So it's not that he sees games entirely as something stupid or other. It's just he is very spiteful that the games out, like, you did this thing that before there was like huge interest in his books. The games got most sales from Witcher series, and well, he as creator didn't get money, so that's the story.
Witcher related or not. It is what it is, who cares? What that means though is that if you ask him about the Witcher lore CDPR have come up with for their games, well, you might get a really entertaining response if you stumble upon one of the very few game-related topics that he actually has a strong opinion on. Which, as you probably could have guessed, is exactly what happened when one of the questions Sapkowski was asked for this Q&A was what he thought about all of the extra Witcher schools CDPR created, like the School of the Bear, the School of the Viper, and so on. All of those and more are CDPR inventions. In fact, almost everything we know about Witcher schools comes directly from the games. They're mentioned in the books, which we're about to talk about, but that's all, just mentioned. Which brings us to the first part of Sapkowski's pretty long answer to the Witcher school question. An answer that, to put it mildly, really upset some people. So to start, we'll take this piece by piece. He said, the issue of Witcher schools requires a longer explanation. A single sentence about the School of the Wolf mysteriously made its way into The Last Wish. I later deemed it unworthy of development and narratively incorrect, even detrimental to the plot. Which is an interesting thing to say, even though it is true, the books only directly mention Witcher schools one time. In the very first book, The Last Wish, it's said that Geralt's medallion is from the School of the Wolf and bears the sign of that school. After that, in the later books, other types of Witchers are mentioned, like Griffin Witchers who wear Griffin medallions and Cat Witchers with cat medallions, but you never ever hear the words Griffin School or Cat School. It's just that most readers, and ultimately CDPR themselves, figured that if having a wolf medallion meant you're a Witcher from the Wolf School, then having a Griffin medallion would mean you're from the Griffin School, and so on. I mean, even Kaer Morhen itself is only the Wolf School in the games because of that one book line. Geralt has a Wolf School medallion, we know Kaer Morhen is where he learned to be a Witcher, so even though the books never directly call Kaer Morhen the Wolf School, you can still see how readers...
So, like, yes, this is the fact generally about Witcher schools. Also, to my knowledge, Witcher schools in Witcher 3 were made mostly to... From what I remember, they were mostly put there to justify special Witcher sets that could be crafted in Witcher 3, which specialized in different things, like Bear School was total defense armor, the Cat School I think was speedy one, and Wolf School was all arounder. The Griffin School set was as a reference to armor Geralt had, or outfit he had in Witcher Witcher 1 game, a lot of this isn't like secret, it was something that was known when the game was released, though maybe some stuff was added after by CDPR.
And CDPR would come to that conclusion. That said though, and to get to the point, Sapkowski is apparently taking it all back now, which leads us to the next part of his answer. This is what he had to say. However, that one sentence from The Last Wish was enough. Adapters, particularly video game people, have clung to the idea with remarkable tenacity, and have wonderfully multiplied these Witcher schools. It's completely unnecessary.
Well, the thing is that his series is separate from books. To be fair, the first game was supposed to be very separate. The amount of reference to book and series in Witcher 2 and Witcher 3 was mostly because of fans demanding a lot of it. Witcher 1 said, when you've played the game and you see a lot of it, it develops to very different place than the other games decided to go with. That's also the reason why Geralt in the first game has amnesia, because he was supposed to be player character, and we supposed to made Geralt as we think he would be after rebuilding himself from what happened to him. And frankly, I think the Witcher 1, in the case of characterization of Geralt, is the best one, because I frankly don't care that much about his character that he has in Witcher 3.
From there, after kind of claiming that he thinks the multiplication of Witcher schools was not a good thing, he then went on to say that he thinks the easiest solution to this problem would be to just revise all future editions of The Last Wish to just remove his one-sentence reference to the Wolf School, to get rid of the topic entirely. And then, in potential future books, he wants to leave himself open to expanding his new lore of where and how Witchers were created and trained. If you're wondering, by the way, I say the new lore because Sapkowski's latest Witcher book, Crossroad of Ravens, which came out a few weeks ago and I've read twice now, shout out to Orbit Publishing for sending me a copy early, but it goes in a very different direction from there being a wolf school, griffin school, that sort of thing. And while it is really interesting, it does also really feel like a direct result of him not liking what Witcher fans think Witcher schools are, and not liking what the games have made them. So what is that new lore that he's introduced, and how does it conflict with what CDPR have set up? Well, we'll get to that in just a second, but first, I do need to take just a moment to thank my very favorite sponsor, Factor, for sponsoring this video. And if you don't know, Factor are the meal delivery and the prohibitively expensive to eat menu. Whenever you want Factor, you're on the heavily. You know how I mentioned that the original Witcher books never say that Kaer Morhen and the Wolf School are the same thing? Well, with the new book, that no longer applies, because Crossroad of Ravens definitively makes Kaer Morhen just a general Witcher training facility, not one that's specific to any type of Witcher. The new book actually confirms that the training of Viper Witchers, Wolf Witchers, and it's probably safe to say Griffin Witchers were all carried out at Kaer Morhen. By the way, if you're confused on how Viper Witchers could be mentioned considering they're a game thing, well, I don't know what to tell you, it's just that suddenly in the new book, Viper Witchers exist. My guess is at some point Sapkowski heard the term Viper Witcher, thought it sounded pretty cool, and there's nothing more to it than that. The same sort of thing also happened with the last book, Season of Storms from 2013. In that one, Book Geralt suddenly starts doing the game thing of carrying 2 swords at a time, both on his back. Before, in all the previous books that came out before the games, Geralt only carried one sword at a time, steel being his main weapon for humans and most monsters, and silver being more of a super expensive specialty tool, one that he kept on Roach unless needed. Anyway though, in addition to establishing Kaer Morhen as being the training facility for every type of Witcher, all different types of...
I don't think adding stuff from book is necessarily bad. Like, he may be grumpy old man, but I think he realized that two swords on the back is very iconic with the Witcher image at this point, and it's pretty cool idea.
Of Witchers, the new book also brings into canon two other places where Witchers were created. Mirabel, which is said to be an old fortress where the first ever Witchers were made, and Bane Grud, which is where cat Witchers were apparently created. Again, it's very pointedly not a cat school. Instead, it's another place where Witchers in general were made, but things went wrong during the mutation process, which resulted in what other Witchers call cats. Essentially, psychopath Witchers whose mutations had not worked as intended. We knew about that part from Season of Storms, that cat Witchers were unhinged, that they weren't particularly stable, and that other Witchers didn't like to associate with them, but we didn't know where they were made and how exactly that happened. Now, I should point out, throughout this entire video, I have been saying cat Witchers, wolf Witchers, viper Witchers, even when referencing the books, but I probably should mention, to make a distinction here, that the books never really put it quite that way. They don't say Geralt then met a viper Witcher. They say Geralt then met a Witcher with a medallion shaped like a viper, and I think that's the major hang-up Sapkowski has with Witcher schools and what they've become in the games. If you read the books with what he said in the Q&A right at the top of your head, ignoring that one reference to the School of the Wolf and bearing in mind everything else that's book-specific, then it becomes clear that Sapkowski didn't mean for there to be different types of Witchers, different specialties in schools. The cats are an exception as failures, the consequences of messing with nature, but other than cats, there are just Witchers, and the medallions they carry around are meant to have some personal significance, not to be an indicator of what school you attended or what your specific Witcher specialty is. He said pretty much exactly that in the Q&A, that if he gets around to doing another Witcher book, and if the story calls for it, he might expand on what medallions mean to the individual Witcher. It really is interesting just how much of the game lore is based on that one Witcher school line. I mean, we've already talked about it, but for another example, take Vesemir, Eskel, and Lambert. In the games, they're Wolf School Witchers. They're the Wolf School Witchers, but the only reason for that is the same logic as before. Geralt's medallion is from the School of the Wolf, Vesemir was his instructor, so he's probably Wolf School too, and because Eskel and Lambert were also pupils of Vesemir, like Geralt, well, they must be Wolf Witchers as well. In reality, though, it's never explicitly said in the books that Eskel, Vesemir, or Lambert have wolf medallions. Everything is based on what Geralt has and a few small leaps from there. It's crazy, and if Sapkowski was ever to reveal the medallions of some of those other important characters, well, I think it would then become impossible for CDPR to reconcile the book lore with the games. Which, I will say, I'm sure CDPR will try to do. Personally, I think Sapkowski should be able to do whatever he wants.
Well, like I said at first, they tried to go their own way. Like, at the beginning, the first game was using the Witcher as starting point for its own thing, like what Baldur's Gate was doing with D&D in the beginning, and ironically, I think both Witcher 3 and Baldur's Gate 3 are seen as excellence of what their points of origin are, even though it wasn't like supposed to be at beginning. It doesn't mean that it's bad or anything, it's just changing direction.
The books are the books, they're the canon that everything which came later is based on, and At the end of the day, this is his creation, his world. Without him, we wouldn't have The Witcher. We wouldn't have the games we love. And on that note, CDPR have always gone out of their way to do a very good job of taking what's truly canon, the books, and working it into their games. Now granted, this is kind of a unique situation where a new book came out that very much contradicts a lot of what they've set up. This hasn't really happened before, but I think CDPR will get creative and do their best to work in the new lore about where Witchers were made and the personal connection Witchers have to their medallions. I'll even make a light prediction here and say that I really wouldn't be surprised if that's already what they're doing with Ciri in The Witcher 4, with her Lynx medallion. I've speculated this already, but I very much wonder if that's her own personal creation, a medallion to represent her specifically and her unique path to becoming a Witcher, which would fit right in with what Sapkowski has been saying about medallions in interviews. I do think it's possible for Witcher schools in the games to exist more or less as they are, while also bringing in some of these new book ideas. I think that could be fun and probably will be a challenge for CDPR going forward, a challenge I think they'll enjoy. That's one of my favorite things about The Witcher, is the meshing of book lore and game lore, and it's not always perfect, it's not always seamless, but it's usually pretty fun to see CDPR trying to make it all work. Anyway, that is all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like. It really helps get my content out.
Well, that was much more simple than I assumed. He pretty much show everything that there is to it. I assume that the games would kick out the Witcher schools, because to be fair, I never assumed that Witcher schools were thinking the books, because ever since Witcher 3 came out, I kinda knew that Witcher school is pretty much on the one that is also I don't think that's the worst thing that new game has to deal with current climate and culture in the company. A lot of people that made Witcher 3 what it is have left, and we can only hope that next Witcher game will be nice and all, but yeah, I don't know. The thing with Ciri as a Witcher, they would need to very much change stuff in the lore of the games to make that work. Not like it was needed. Ciri was pretty amazing in the Witcher 3 with her powers already. Also, like, you could just make RPG with player created Witcher and give him cool stuff. Like, you may not know it, but there is tabletop RPG based on Witcher made by CD Projekt Red, because CD Projekt Red put The Witcher to many things, like even before Gwent was its own video game, you could buy set of Gwent cards to play it in the real world. There wasn't like super many cards like in huge games. Most of the cards were the cards that were in the game. In Witcher 3, I mean. So that's kinda interesting tidbits. I don't, I don't know. As Paul, I'm not like much of Witcher fan, but also it's very sad when something that is from your culture, even if I'm not that much fan of it, it's changed because of modern sensibilities. I hope that isn't what is happening, but it feels with a new game. And I hope that Sapkowski doesn't do that in his books. Though, knowing from where he is, the I had very bad history with city from which he is from. Maybe I will tell that story other day. Just to let you know, I was in the part that was totally modern city. A lot of cement and a lot of glass skyscrapers. I don't really like modern cities. But enough of it. This is the video, and when you shine, darkness fades. Bye.